What's up, everybody? You are listening to the Think Big podcast. I'm your host, Ayelet Polonsky, also known as your manifestation mentor. This podcast is designed to help you create a manifestation mindset by learning how to think big. You'll learn to use your thoughts to co-create your reality. Let's get into today's episode. Beatie Deutsch, thanks so much for coming on. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
Such an honor. I don't know if you know, but ever since I listened to your manifestation classes, I was always into manifesting, but you took it to another level. So it's just cool to be talking to the manifestation guru.
Wow. Okay, my ego. Woo.
Everyone needs to feel, I feel like it's so good. I love making other people feel good because we all deserve that, we're all trying hard to do a good job in our own way. And if you notice something about someone else and appreciate it, they feel better. So you've already just added a little more kindness to the world,
I completely agree. I always say it's like a compliment that is kept in your own head is you're doing a disservice to humanity. Why would you keep a compliment for somebody else in your own head? You're just spreading more vibrational goodness out into the world by telling people good things and making them feel good about yourself. So we're on the same page. Okay. So Beatie, AKA Speedy Beatie. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
It was so funny because before we actually pressed record, Beatie was telling me how she's like, I'm always running around and doing things. I'm like, okay, well, that's really apropos to who you are. You're always running in some capacity. So let me go ahead and ask you, Beatie, a runner, a mother, a wife, religious, Jewish, observant woman. What is your why? Why do you do what you do?
That is a really, I feel like it's the main question everyone's asked. So it should be so obvious, but now I'm just wait, why do I do everything? Because it's so easy to get kind of caught up in the rhythm and routine of what you're doing. I think at the core of everything, it's always been about being able to spread godliness in the world in my own unique way. Ever since I was a young girl, I felt passionate about sharing the beauty of Judaism with the world, sharing the beauty of Torah with the world, sharing what it meant to have a relationship with God. And it's been a journey to where I am now. And it's totally not what I even pictured or imagined, but it's so incredibly it feels so perfect because it's me using all of my strengths to serve God to the fullest. So that's kind of my why.
Wow. Okay. So can you talk about that in a little bit more depth? I'm curious what you mean when you say your why is bringing God into the world. So what is the connection for you between being a runner and bringing more godliness into the world?
So I feel like we're all gifted with certain passions and strengths and talents. And when we use them, when we develop them and when we, use them to make a difference in the world, and that's how we're shining our piece of God, because those talents are ultimately not ours. They're a gift from God. And to me, as a runner, I have this opportunity, I think, also to bridge many barriers and to allow people kind of a glimpse into the world of Torah and Judaism without it being too overwhelming. So I feel for anyone, running is an incredible tool for spiritual growth. And I feel on my platform, I've been able to just show how each of us have our own strengths and gifts. And for me, it's running, but for someone else, it's something else. And that's when we use them in this world, then we're ultimately shining God's light into it, because that's that's the piece of God that's within us. And each one of us needs to be doing our part to bring the ultimate, picture of godliness into the world. And you can really see it. And I really do believe it's a lifetime of work for us to really understand all of our strengths and how we're meant to use them here. But that's our ultimate mission.
Amazing. So I'm curious, how you found out, when did you realize, or how did you realize that this is your purpose? This is your mission? Because a big question that I get from people when I tell them it's important to have clarity. There's something you want, there's something you want to manifest. Step one, get clear, write it down. And then I get a lot of feedback from my audiences that say, what if I don't know what I want? How do I get clear? So how did you get clear that running is your mission?
Yes. So I do think that having the clarity is we don't always have that aha moment. And I feel exceptionally lucky that it came together in a very concrete way for me. I think what was always clear to me is that I felt very connected to Judaism and to like my connection with God. That was always like, primary in my life. And that was what I was most passionate about. I spent high school, I was busy always doing some initiative, working with Jewish students or parents on Shabbatons, or rollerblading around Central Park to hand out Shana Tova cards. Like, I just wanted, I felt like, wow, I'm so lucky that I have this. I just want more people to know about it. So for a long time, that passion wasn't able to be developed, because when I moved to Israel, then it was just there's an abundance of teachers teaching Torah. And I was the little 19-year-old who I didn't have a platform. I didn't have places to teach. It was kind of I felt this burning passion inside that I couldn't use it. And it took time. And, initially I was just running around, getting involved in seminaries in a very small scale. Then we moved to Tucson for 2 years, and I worked on a college campus. I was hands-on with college students. Then we came back to Israel, and I worked for 5 years for a Jewish nonprofit. And along the way, I started running just on the side because I needed to get back in shape, and I didn't know how much I needed to actually take care of myself. And I finally realized that. And the running was a process also. It's not right when I started running, I was oh, wow, here I am. I'm going to go to the Olympics, and this is my dream. And I'm going to go be a runner for Israel. I was just oh, wow, I like running and I feel really good. And I'm going to keep doing it. And, slowly, it evolved into what it's been today. And it took 3 years, which is not even a long time, honestly, as a runner, but it was 3 years. And that's when I won my first national championship. And that opened the door to give me, the platform and the opportunity to run professionally for Israel. And only because of the encouragement of my own personal Rav and mentor, Rabbi Kellerman, did I realize that this is a gift from God that I have, and I'm obligated to run with it. In my mind, I wasn't sure if I should actually, become a professional athlete, because it's so not the typical path for, an Orthodox Jewish woman. And his encouragement and, constant support is what made me realize no, this is what I'm meant to be doing. And the more I'm doing it, the more I just see how everything about me is perfect for this role, because I have so many strengths that are really suited to racing professionally and just certain mental aspects, and especially for the marathon. And then I see how it's really needed in the world today, to be able to be an influencer in our search in a different way, and to be able to share Torah through a different prism than just your standard learning. So I just feel very blessed, and I'm a constant work in progress in that sense.
Wow. Would you say that you were then born athletic, or is it a skill that you trained yourself to become later in life?
I was definitely born athletic. That's for sure. That's a thing. That's a cool thing. I loved sports growing up, but I didn't have a lot of opportunities. I grew up in a really Orthodox community, and we didn't have any formal sports for girls. I didn't do sports in high school. I didn't do sports in college. I just did, pick up basketball games, which I'm super short, nothing major. So the fact that I get to actually do what I love and what I'm good at is just it's so incredible,
Mm-hmm. So if someone wanted to start becoming more athletic, do you think that that's something that everyone could develop, or is it something that people have to be born with?
Everyone can develop skills to be a better athlete. It's absolutely clear to me. Everyone could run a marathon. Everyone can run. Not everyone is going to be at the elite level, because there's definitely a certain amount of talent that is, like I said, a gift from God. But to develop that talent requires work and commitment and effort. And the thing that I think is so great about running is that it creates a work ethic. It teaches you how to handle challenges in life and gives you these like skills and mindset tools that you can apply to anything you're going through. So to me, it's this amazing tool for life, you know?
So yeah, I mean, I love that you use the word mindset. How much of what you do would you say is mindset, and how much of what you do would you say is skill?
It's funny. People like to quote these like percentages, like running's like 90% mental. And I'm all about mindset, but I don't think it's 90% mental. Like, I think that you actually still have to, there's a lot of actual physical preparation that's required. Like, if you want to be successful, you got to get the right sleep and the right nutrition and take care of your body. And those are all physical things. I think where the mindset comes in, like to get you to the level of, to actually make progress and improvement, it requires you to like mentally push yourself and to be so tuned into your mind and to not be afraid to lean into discomfort. And the more you can do that, the more you'll actually see results. And I see that, you know, in my own, there's so many times where it's like in my head, I'm working so hard. No one has any idea, you know? And it's like the workout could have gone one way or the other. I'm so close to quitting, and I'm pulling myself out of it because I know that is what's going to take me to the next level. And, you know, it's a constant process. As good as you ever think you get in the mind game, you can always improve.
For sure. Is there something that you tell yourself when you find yourself in a situation where you feel so close to quitting?
Yeah, I have so many different mantras, but I think it depends on the situation. So right now, like I'm coming back from an injury, and it's especially like hard because I know what I was capable of and I know where my fitness normally is at. And even though I'm so grateful to be running again, and I've been running already for 2 months now, and I'm at my like normal weekly mileage, but my fitness is not there. So in the moment, I'm just like my head goes to these really negative places. Like, oh my gosh, you're just never going to get to where you used to be. Like, you might as well quit. Like, it's embarrassing that you're running this slow. The thing I always say is like, in those moments, I'm like, Beatie, it's worth it for you to show up, because if you get through this, you're going to get to the next step of progress. Every single workout brings you a little bit closer to where you're getting to. And if you don't do it, you won't build that layer that you need to get there. So in my head, it's just like, let yourself get through this. You can do it. Don't worry about where you used to be. Just get through this moment, you know? And I think like I have to throw a lot of expectations out the window, and I cannot, because that creates so much anxiety and stress. And that's the worst thing when you're trying to push your body. You actually have to be as relaxed as you can. Mm-hmm. The second your brain starts to like pick up on any tension or like nervousness, or I'm not sure if I can handle it. So then your body's going to kick it. Your brain's going to say like, oh yeah, let's shut down. Like, you can't handle this. You have to really be like, no, I can handle this. I'm fine. I'm great. Right. Even though you really feel like you can't handle it.
Totally. And being a mother of 5 and a wife and a member of the Jewish community, do you ever find yourself experiencing burnout? And if so, what do you do?
Yeah, I experience burnout as a mom, plenty. I find myself, and also even some days I'm just like, so many people want to hear from me, or so many people want me, like, especially being on social media, it can be like draining sometimes. I love people and I love relationships, but then I don't know, I don't realize how mentally and physically exhausting training is. Like a hard workout, I don't want to think about anything the rest of the day. But a lot of people, I have immediate children that need me, and they require me to think about them and be conscious. And then there's other people just asking me for things, and I'm like, I don't really like, I know the world thinks I like, I'm so great. Like I'm actually like, I just want to go lay in my bed right now. Like, I don't want to think about anyone. So I think we all have our bad days and our hard days. And if I'm having a hard moment, a big boost of confidence for me is to be like, Beatie, you got through a really tough workout this morning. You can handle this really difficult moment with your kids right now. So I try to hold myself to that standard. And I'm very good at giving myself grace. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but like I can move past, like if I had a bad moment, I'm just like, all right, like that was not what I wanted, but I'm going to move forward. So it helps me bounce back from things pretty quickly.
I mean, I think that's a huge skill to have if you want to be resilient or successful in anything, be able to bounce back, right? So the negative thoughts are going to come into your head, but how quickly are we bouncing back or stepping, being able to pop those thought bubbles and come back to it?
It's been my coping mechanism like my whole life. There is a couple detriments for me in that, but I definitely see the positives most of the time.
Are you open to talking about what some of those detriments might be? Like, what do you mean?
Yeah. So I would say, like, from the bouncing back, like my teacher in 6th grade, I remember she said, like, things bounce off your shoulder so easily. Like, that's always how people describe me. I'm just very easygoing, very resilient, very positive. And that means that if something negative happens to me, or if I go through something difficult, or if I'm experiencing a challenge in my life in a relationship, my automatic reaction is it's fine. Like, I'm okay. It's going to be great. And that's how I've survived some pretty intense things. But it also means that, like, sometimes I don't make sure to give myself the emotional space to, like, say, it's like hard for me to say, no, this really hurts. I'm actually like sad right now. Like my mind like cringes, like, no, you're not sad. You're fine. And like, I've had to work so hard to give myself that emotional space. But I can say, like, I started that process, I think around, 10, 11, 12 years ago. And I have seen myself make progress. So it's good. I want to get to that. I think I'm in a more balanced space in that sense.
Thank God. I think people see influencers, athletes, celebrities, anyone who's brave enough to put themselves in the spotlight. And from a social media perspective, all the world sees are the wins, the successes. Right? But you just said, I go through my own struggles. So I'm curious if you're open to talk about what maybe one of your biggest or bigger struggles have been and how you've overcome it.
Yeah, some of them are a bit, like, I would say they don't just involve me, so I don't want to, like, necessarily say. But I think also, I'm a mom of a special needs child. My son's on the spectrum, and that's definitely something that, you have to work through. I think everyone who's married knows that marriage is not always easy. It's a work in progress. And, like, especially when you and your spouse might be very different. So, like, I think through all of those things, like, one of the biggest things I just couldn't necessarily share, and people would have no clue. Like you said, I think most people don't see for anything, through every amazing victory that we have and every win that we have, there is so much blood, sweat, and tears that is poured into it. And so many times where I think we really, like, I know for myself where I felt like, okay, I'm going to quit. Like, I'm not making progress, or it's too much, or it's too hard. And it's so easy to feel alone when you're going through that, because you don't see so much of that, which is why I really do try to show a lot of the struggles as a runner, like all the times that, like, I had a bad workout and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a failure, or like all those thoughts, because I just want people to realize it's a normal part of the journey. And if you're not able to go through those moments of failure or obstacles, roadblocks, and they do stop you in your tracks, like, you will not be able to get to the depth of your potential. And I would say failure, like real failure, like, sometimes we're too scared. Like, we talk about big things, big goals. We're too scared to go for those big goals, because it's almost easier and safer to say, like, oh no, I didn't actually try that. Like, I didn't really want it, or, I didn't try so hard. It's no big deal. Rather than say, like, I invested my entire soul in this. I really wanted it. I still believe I'm going to get there, but right now I failed. Like, and that's okay. That's part of it also, Mm-hmm. So I think that understanding that this is the part of the road to success is just really important for all of us.
Wow. That's powerful. If someone what advice would you give to someone who has a dream, a goal, something they want to accomplish, and let's say they have a certain degree of clarity of what that thing is, but there's an initial hump. There's a fear that's stopping them from even taking the first step. What advice would you give that person?
My first thought is just like, you got to take the plunge. Like, don't be afraid to just jump in, because I think that it's almost like a natural part of us, of our human beings, to have that fear, but it's not always actually realistic even. And I think that to get any journey started, sometimes you have to just, even if the water is like over your head, you just have to like get your feet wet and start. And yeah, I would say make sure that you have friends and mentors and people who can support you on the journey. Like that's going to be that's going to help you get it through those initial, hard part in the beginning.
Totally. Do you get nervous before your races, your runs?
So that's where I would say that's why I feel like I'm so perfect for this, because like I don't have race day nerves. Like I just I'm a very non-anxious person. Like I've never dealt with like feeling nervous. So I don't show up to a race feeling anxiety at all. I just really trust. I mean, I have a lot of emunah, and I have a lot of faith that like whatever God wants from me is going to be for the best, that I did my training, I put in the hard work, and now it's time to celebrate, and it's easy for me to like go into a race really relaxed. I would say there's sometimes butterflies, it's like normal, but I think butterflies or any kind of nerves just show that you're excited and invested in this and that it means a lot to you. And I look at that as a really good thing.
That's great. And I've heard you say before that we set our own limitations. What do you mean by this?
Well, I think that whatever we perceive of ourselves, however we view ourselves, is what we allow ourselves to achieve. And it's easy to write ourselves off or to say like, oh no, that's way too hard for me, or I could never imagine myself doing that. And I think we have to really allow ourselves to like imagine and be curious and explore and dream bigger. And for a long time, like I was really in like survival mode of life. So all the things I'm saying now, I couldn't even like connect to. It was like, no. Like I can barely get through the next day. Like, don't tell me to dream big. And only because I've seen how the goals that I set for myself that I thought were so far away, once I would not only hit those goals, I'd realize like, oh my gosh, wait, I think I could go further. And that made me really recognize this idea of us, we become prisoners to the perceptions of our own limitations. When we can stop putting, limits on ourselves, then we know like the sky's the limit.
You said you were in survival mode for a long time. Was there something that you had to actively do to get yourself out of survival mode, or was it just a matter of letting time take its course?
Even when I started running, I would say like it wasn't the easiest thing. Like I had 4 little kids at the time. My oldest was like maybe like 6. And both my husband and I were like working, and we just didn't have a lot of, I feel like, I don't know, brain space or energy to like deal with that much. And starting to run, what actually jump started like the confidence in me to like want more for myself in my life, because for the first time I was actually as a mother, I was doing something for myself, and it gave me this like really amazing feeling of freedom and empowerment. My first marathon was life-changing. Like it was taking a distance that had seemed so insurmountable and so crazy and so big, and then accomplishing it and realizing like when I started, I could not run a marathon. And 4 months later, I was a marathoner. Like it really changed me. And that's what I felt like. I feel like, for anyone, running can be so powerful in that sense, because you can take something that seems so far, a distance that you've never done in your life. It doesn't have to be a marathon. It could be some other distance. It could be some other goal. And then if you apply yourself and put in the work, you will get there. And that there's nothing like that feeling. No one can take it away from you.
Wow. I love that. So let's take someone like myself. I consider myself to be athletic. However, I have a story that I tell myself that I'm not a runner. And for years, I've told myself, Ayelet, it would be so nice for you to just start running. You would feel so good. I used to run in high school, which is over a decade ago. Okay. And now I'm at a point in my life where I do yoga, I do dance, I have a personal trainer. Okay, fine. And I see people on social media, they're running, they feel so good about it, releases endorphins, they're so proud of themselves. It's such a high after a run. And I'm like, I should get into that. So what advice would you give to someone like me who it's like, I would love to start running, but there's clearly a mental block there?
Well, first of all, I would say that I think I always preface the fact that, like, I don't think everyone has to run, because I just think it's important. Like, you talked about ways that you move your body that make you feel good. And that's so important. And if you have that, like, you should never come from running of like a place of like, I need to. I feel like it has to be from like, I want to, or I get to do this. Like, it's a privilege. To me, I look at it as like, God gave me a body that wants to move, and I want to go out and explore nature. If you want to start, I would just say the easiest way to get into it in a positive way is like, go somewhere, like pick a beautiful place in nature and do like a, I don't know, 20-minute run walk, so you don't feel pressure. Or if you feel comfortable just starting to run, then like, it doesn't have to be that long. 2 kilometers. See how you feel after. I especially love running in either like early morning, like watching the sunrise, or like late afternoon and watching the sunset. I happen to be really lucky that I live like with amazing fields right near me. It's very different when you live in Yerushalayim, Gansacker, but it doesn't always cut it. There are places, but you got to get out a little bit. So
yeah, totally.
But you know what? I spent 5 years running in Yerushalayim, and I loved running down Yafo like early morning. Like, it was so amazing to me to watch like the city wake up. And I always felt like I had this like little sneak preview of like the quiet parts of Yerushalayim before the hustle and bustle. And it gave me this very deep connection with Yerushalayim. Like, it was my city. It was my streets. I own it, you know?
I would never think to run down the streets of Yafo, but like, you're giving me a new boost of inspiration, because maybe when my kids start waking up past 5:30 a.m., I'll wake up. Oh my
gosh, it's so hard when you have babies. I literally, by the way, this week my Facebook feed like sent me this memory. It was 5 years ago, like, and I posted like, okay, it's a picture of my 2 little boys. They were sitting in the bars at the window, because they were waiting for me to come back from my run, but it's like dark outside. Like, literally, I'm like, and my post was, just got up at 4:30 a.m. to finish my 6-mile run. Now I got to deal with a marathon of laundry. But I was like so on a high, and like I had come back to my kids at 5:30 in the morning, waiting for me in the bars of the window. Wow. So the struggle is real when you're a mom of babies. There's no easy way around it.
It's beyond. It's so true. Spot on. I feel like I'm running a marathon every single day. So I'm a marathon runner. There you go. Is there something that do you listen to music? Do you listen to motivation? What gets you moving?
Every day is different. I never listen to anything when I'm doing a workout, because I have to be very in tune with my brain. So 3 times a week I'm doing workouts. So those are just silent. It doesn't feel silent. There's a lot of conversation in my head, and then on easy days, I usually listen to like a shiur or Jewish, like, class, because I don't find time for it. At other times, it's just a good time. And on Fridays, it's like my chill run. So I like to listen to music. And then, I have runs. I a lot of times run twice a day. So then the second run is either with my husband or some of my kids, or just by myself, like soaking in the end of the day. So nice. I feel really lucky that I get to do it,
Nice. Yeah, it's such a blessing. And I think my last question is, if you could give advice to your younger self, let's say your 10-year-old self, right? Or maybe imagine you're speaking to one of your kids who's going through a hard time. Like, what advice would you give your younger self as an adult?
I can't think of to me, my younger self is like when I first got married, the newly married Beatie, like 19, my younger 10-year-old self, I feel like I was the most happy-go-lucky, easygoing 10-year-old. Like, everything was great. And I would just tell myself, like, keep enjoying life, and like, just keep doing what you're doing. But I think as a new mom, the advice I'd want to give myself and is to just slow down and be present, and you know, you don't have to be hustling all the time. I worked a lot. I was always juggling jobs and running and getting things done and hosting people and very busy. And I've shifted now to try and be, I'm trying. I think social media makes it difficult, but to be less busy and more present in the moment. And just life flies by so quickly. If you're a mom, your kids grow up so fast. They just want more of you. It's just spend as much time with your kids as you can and hug them and hold them tight.
How do you do that, practically speaking? Meaning you have your career. I have my career. We're both speaking from experience. I find it very challenging to be 100%. I try to make the time quality versus quantity. That's a big one. But when you say spend as much time with your kids, how do you do it all? How do you train? And how are you present with your kids? Then there's the everyday chores that need to get done. Is there any advice?
I feel like everyday chores are what really take you away from being present, because when I get home from when I pick up my kids from school and we get home, instead of me sitting on the floor and playing, I'm cooking dinner and running in to change a load of laundry. Like you said, I think quality is really important. Even if you're doing something, pause, look them in the eye, show them that you're really with them in that moment and that they feel that from you. I think if during the week your schedule is so crazy, it's hard because in Israel, Friday, we don't really have Sundays, but then either make Friday a time to have a family activity and Shabbos to spend as much quality time as you can with your kids. We play a lot of games in our house. We try and take walks. And one thing that was always the advice, at the end of the day, to spend a couple minutes of quality alone time with every kid before they go to bed. So, you got some time in one-on-one, and always, and this is just something so important as parents to keep the line of connection open with your kids from day one. You're talking to them, you're asking them about their day, you're telling them about yours. You want to know what's going on in their life. Even when they're a little baby, you can start that, having those conversations. And I think that's so important for protecting our children, because if they know that you want to hear about everything that happened to them and you really care about them because they've experienced that their whole life, then they'll come to you with anything. And I have really seen that. So it's worth the investment.
Wow. I love that. Amazing. Okay. I know I said that was the last question. One more. I want you to end with one line, one piece of advice, because I know when it comes to athletics, it requires a huge degree of resilience, mental resilience, physical resilience, spiritual resilience even. What's one line you could leave us with to help us get inspired?
I think just to really internalize and know God created you with everything you need to excel in this world. You have it all in your toolbox. You're strong and you got this, and really believe that.
I have chills. Thank you, Beatie, so much. I've loved this conversation. I'm feeling inspired. And there is a part of me, I'm not going to lie, that's maybe I should wake up at 5 a.m. and go running on Napo tomorrow. So I'll keep you posted. If you enjoyed this episode and would like more manifestation inspiration, tune in every Monday for a new episode. Be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss out on an episode. What you get out of this show means the world to me, so I invite you to leave an honest review. And if you want more, you can follow me on social media at Ayelet Polonsky. And if you want to learn how to manifest a life you love, head on over to ayeletpolonsky.com to check out the courses that I offer. See you next week, and as always, think big and happy manifesting.